Before I begin, there's two things I want to say. The first is this video does come from a place of love and respect for the product that is Star Citizen. And number two, it's probably going to be very controversial. If you've been playing Star Citizen recently with the current patch or following it, you've probably noticed that it's not doing very well and it's not very popular. Sure, you can always typically find a full server in the PU at any time zone, which might be enough for you. But for a game that is aspiring to be an MMO, and it's not there yet, the tools aren't there yet, I want to be very fair to it, but for a game that's aspiring to be that, it's not really managing to pull in or retain a lot of its players. There was a pretty big spike, I would say, with 3.23 when it came out. Master modes, all the new stuff, Invictus. I saw a lot of players. Actually, my YouTube metrics alone spiked to the highest they've ever been. Our organization activity was the highest that it ever was in many, many months. Star Marine, Arena Commander, and the PU were absolutely hopping. And there was a lot of love and interest in the product at that time. But it just did not last. What happened? Where is everybody? If you go into AC right now, or Star Marine, and I'm going to put it on screen here, it's usually empty. There isn't a single soul in the world right now at prime time US American time, prime time, that wants to play Star Marine or Arena Commander. That was not the case when this patch dropped. There were a ton of people at all hours of the night on all servers, full lobbies, fragging out constantly. You go into the PU. Yeah, you could find a full server, usually, right? In the whole world, right? There's always one full server at least. It's only 100 players. But look at my friends list. I cleaned this after every patch. Always cleaned it up. And before I cleaned it up, I had 342 or something people on it. I deleted everybody off it, and I re-added everybody when 3.23 came out. So I had an active player list. And right now, at 7 p.m., prime time, United States, there's only 2 people on my friends list. And it's not all org members. My friends list has a lot of people that are not in my org either. Out of 132 people that came back to try the new patch at least, hardly anybody still plays. So what happened? Where did they go? Why did they leave? It's time for some tough love, and I think this is a definite coming to Jesus moment for Star Citizen. The first problem is that 3.23, while it launched with master modes, and it is controversial, and you know my stance on it, I enjoy it, it also launched with some of the worst balance I think that this game has ever had. If you came in to try master modes, and you thought that your brand new ship that was finally updated for the new flight model would be viable and would have a purpose, you were very rudely introduced to the F-7A Hornet Mark II and Omniski cannons. And that is all you dealt with for the entirety of the patch. If you wanted to go do PvP or PvE in the PU, you were always better off in a Hornet, because if you fought somebody in a Hornet, you got smoked. If you're doing player bounties in a Hornet, you had no problem doing it and smoking the bounties. You had no problems doing the PvE. There was almost nothing ship combat related that the F-7A Hornet could not do. And to make matters worse, you had to go and buy this ship. And this came out with a free fly, mind you. So if you're a brand new player and you're giving this game a shot, or you're a returning player, okay? But you're coming back to this game, or you're coming into it to play it, and you've heard all the bullcrap over the years or over the months that, oh, Star Citizen is a scam, Star Citizen is pay to win, Star Citizen is a rug pull, all this crap. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. It's free flight, I'm going to give it a shot. And then the first thing that you see, that you witness, that you encounter is the F-7A Hornet. And the only way to get that thing, the Mark II, the only way to get that thing is to do a 10-week-long quest line for the privilege of spending more money on the Mark II military upgrade, and then there's no other way to get it. Guys, the optics on that is so bad. There is no way that that is not viewed as pay to win. So, here you are, Joe Average, coming back to the game, or a brand new player coming to check it out, and all you're doing is getting annihilated by Hornet Mark IIs with Omniski cannons. Why are you going to stick around for that? The only people that stuck around for that are the most degenerate, bottom-feeding losers that this game has to offer. And sometimes that seems to be all that the PvP player base consists of in this game, are people that can't cut it in other games, so they try their damnedest to be good at this bad game that now, as I've given you an example of before in video, nobody really plays. So the new player base is coming in, and that's what they're seeing. That's one major reason why people dipped after 3.23. The other issue that they encountered in 3.23 was rampant duping bugs, just nonstop. And this is not new. I did a video a year ago, all the way last year, around the same time of Invictus, where people were duping with the mule, they were duping cargo, and it ruined what little bit of economy we have, which is nothing, and by the way, we will get into that in this video. What ruined what little economy and gameplay we had, and nothing was done. Now, this time, to CIG's credit, they did ban these mutants, these cheaters, these exploiters, and that's great. But the damage is already done. And as of this recording right now, there is another duping bug that people can exploit to make more money using salvage. There is another one. There has been over 1 year of duping bugs in this game. So what is the incentive to do anything? If you just want to come in and try ships, why would you try any of the gameplay loops when all you would have to do is dupe or get money from a friend who duped or know somebody who duped? The integrity of the product, the integrity of the test environment alone is compromised by that. And you will always hear these trash bag Redditors say things like, well, it's just an alpha, how are we supposed to test things? That bull crap, okay? That is not why they are duping or exploiting. They're duping and exploiting because it's in their nature to be scum, to be human garbage. It is all they know. And they will hide behind the guise of testing and wanting to explore different ships, but it's all nonsense. It's all lies. They do it because they're scum. And those people have this effect on the game and the overall integrity of the game to where people just don't want to play. They ask, what's the point? Why should I go do Jump Town when people are just going to dupe money anyway? People might say, oh, well, for PvP. If I want PvP in Star Citizen, I'll go log into Arena Commander. Oh, well, guess what? Like I showed you, nobody's doing Arena Commander. Or, if they are, they're cruising around in F7A Hornet Mark IIs, blasting noobs out of the sky with Omniski cannons, and that's all you see. So, the PvP sucks, the PvE sucks, the economy is non-existent and there's no integrity. Is it really any shock that people bailed so quickly on 3.23? I don't think so. Speaking of the gameplay loops, I've been here since 2020, maybe 2021, I think 2021. And I have been doing the same bunkers, the same bounties, within reason, by the way. There's been some changes. But I've been doing the same thing now, the same non-functioning loops with the same stupid AI and the same stupid buggy environments for 3 years now. For 3 years. So, and I didn't really take much of a break. And I came back, if I came back, okay, and if I come back to 3.23, check out the new stuff. It's the same crap as when I left, but with a new flight model. How long do you think players are going to be retained by the current pointless and meaningless gameplay loops? Now, you might say, and you would be correct to a degree, you say, oh, well, this is just a test, this is not a game. It's a test, but it's not a game. It's an alpha, they say. They always say that it's an alpha. And that's a very fluid argument for these people, because if it doesn't work, it's an alpha. If it works, it's a game. So they use this phrase, it's an alpha, as a magical protective ward. And they pull it out, right? And they hold it in your face and they go, no, this is an alpha. You can't criticize this. What did you expect? But if it works, oh, well, this is a revolutionary thing for a game. This is a gameplay feature. And then the cultists all get together and they rant and they rave. But most normal people don't care. And they shouldn't care. They don't care about the phrase, it's an alpha. Because CAG's marketing will always show this gussied up, glamoured video on YouTube, and it'll always end with play now. But before it says play now, you have massive fleet battles. You have guys running around and getting involved in these high fidelity firefights that don't look like crap. Where if you've played Star Marine, their guns aren't flying out of their hands. They're not pulling out med pens to try and heal themselves and just chucking them at the enemy that's trying to kill them, like actually happens in a game. It looks like a real game. It actually looks like the best game I've ever seen, and I want to play that game. And if you're brand new and you see that, you're like, whoa, this is Star Citizen? This is it right here? These big capital ships? This ground combat combined arms gameplay? Whoa, dude, I need to play this. I want to be Chris's top guy. And they log in and they start playing, and it's absolute crap. They get out of the bed, they fall over dead. They go into an elevator, they get sucked out into space. They try to do some kind of combat, their gun falls out of their hand. They deal with things that no other game has to deal with. Have you ever played another shooter where your gun just falls out of your hand randomly? Have you ever played another shooter that has such weird design philosophy behind it? Have you played any other game that has so many weird issues that Star Citizen has? And then you're like, what was this? Where's the fleet battles? Where's the fluid combat? Where's the game? And then the cultists come, and the cultists go,
well, actually, you signed up for a pledge, and it's an open test. It's a test. You should know better.
These people are sick. They're sick. They're out of touch with reality. And then it makes you question, well, who is this game for? I don't have the answer for that. I do, but I can't really give the full answer on YouTube. But to skirt around that, this game is for, I would say, middle-aged boomers with disposable income and Stockholm Syndrome. I think that's who this game is for. And they are so out of touch with reality and what gaming has become that they see riding a train for 5 minutes to call a ship that takes 10 minutes, to get into orbit, which takes another 5 minutes, to then quantum jump, which takes another 15 or so minutes, to just get to a destination, to pick up a box and put it down. They view that as good gameplay because they are stupid. And I think that is ultimately what right now the game is currently for, is it's for very stupid people that don't know any better. And that is not a sustainable market for a successful game. You can rely on stupid people in the short term for income, but you cannot build a good game based around stupid people. You might be able to build a profitable game to a degree based around stupid people, but to have a game that is successful, has integrity, has good gameplay, if it's only appealing to stupid people, I don't mean mechanically or skilled-wise. I'm talking Dunning-Kruger levels of stupid, which is what most of the Star Citizen community really suffers from, is a very serious case of Dunning-Kruger. These are the people that think they are much better than they are in reality. You see it all the time. You'll see these clowns go onto Spectrum, and they will make giant threads about space velocities and thruster vectoring and realism and physics and master modes and how they like hardcore games. But you will curiously never see them in Arena Commander. Oh, actually, you don't see anybody in Arena Commander anymore, but that's besides the point. But you would never see them in Arena Commander doing any kind of PvP or any kind of fighting. And these are the kind of losers that if you ran into them in the PU, you would absolutely smoke them, And then they would be the first to go onto Spectrum and complain and call you a griefer and call you a whatever it is under the sun. And then they will then make a giant monolithic post asking for PvP sliders and PvE servers. These people are deranged. And those are currently what I would say inhabit the game right now. Because the normal people with self-respect, who respect their time, who respect themselves, they don't sit in Star Citizen and play it for 5 or 6 hours a day. They have better things to do than get on a train for 5 minutes to do that entire ridiculous loop just to put a box down. They would rather go outside and pick up a box and put it down. It'd be a much more productive use of their time. And more importantly, they have options in games. And that's what I don't think a lot of guys realize here, is that players now, this is not 2004 anymore, 2001, or even 2012. Now we're going to get to that here pretty soon. Players have options. If Star Citizen sucks, they're going to go play something else. And there's a very good chance that they don't come back. And do you think that those players, your future revenue, your future player base even, do you think that they care about the excuse of, well, it's a beta? They don't. They don't care. They're not interested in being unpaid Q&A. Hell, you pay to be Q&A in this game. The current player base that, again, suffers so painfully from Dunning-Kruger will always look back and say, well, I backed this game in, 2012, so 12 years ago. They'll say that the original vision promised in 2012 was XYZ, and I expect that now. Let's take some time and let's look at this like rational human beings, if that's possible. 2012 was 12 years ago. That's a long time. If you were in your 20s, you're now in your 30s, maybe your 40s. If you were in your 30s, you're in your 40s, maybe your 50s. That's enough time to put a lot of you into middle-aged category. 12 years, if you backed this game in 12 years, and you had a kid, your kid would be almost a teenager by now, okay? Almost a teenager. That's how long this game has been in development. You cannot hold this game that has been in development for so long, that has gone through so many different iterations, and has endured different generations of games to that standard. It is not feasible. Concessions have to be and will be made, and I totally support that. But this is a game which has a very interesting way of making you realize your own mortality. Because here we are, we're almost done with 2024, and we still don't have anything of true value in Star Citizen. That's another year. There's a good chance that you've been saying that for 12 years now. Where were you 12 years ago? Where was the world 12 years ago? If you think that the idea that you have in your head of playing a game you backed 12 years ago with the ridiculous train rides and the waste of time, if you think that still makes for a new game, have you turned on the news? Have you gone outside? Have you seen the world? We live in a world now where people work 2 jobs as almost an average, as almost a standard, because the economy is that bad. We live in a world that is teetering on the brink of the Third World War. And I hate to get political here, but I'm going to, because you have to understand that game design goes beyond a game and the mechanics. And attracting and retaining players is going to go along with what's going on in the world. People don't have the time or the energy or the drive for excessive frustrations and waste of time that do not add to the game. And that is the absolute crucial part here. That does not add to the game. You may be one of those slubs that works from home, and that might be okay to you. But that is something that is also coming to an end. We are reaching the end of the work from home era. So these people are having to return to work, which means return to commuting and returning to everything that entails working. You cannot make a game that only appeals to the chronically unemployed or the underemployed. It's simply not going to work. It's not going to be a good game. And that doesn't mean that we make a game that caters to mouth breathers Absolutely not. Or window lickers. No, not at all. But there are excessive time sinks that contribute to players not wanting to play or stay in Star Citizen. And that is a very common thing you've seen people talking about in 3.23. Even though most things haven't changed too much in terms of time, like you don't really spend too much more time now than you did 2 or 3 or 4 patches ago, or even 2 or 3 years ago. But I think people now are finally getting fed up with it. They no longer want to waste time doing stupid things. I'm all about grinding for something that has value. I am. I'm all about putting my time in to get good and stay good. I am not about putting my time in to ride a train. I am not about putting my time in to waste my time. Star Citizen players have been wasting their time following this game for 12 years now. Let that sink in. What made a game good 12 years ago does not make a game good today. And the player base, the very small player base that remains or defends, I should say defends, because it doesn't seem to be a lot of people who defend that, by the way. I really don't see a lot of people defending it. It's usually, again, that out-of-touch boomer that's having a midlife crisis that has nothing left but Star Citizen and their quote-unquote investments in Star Citizen that seem to support this nonsense. But a lot of people are just fed up with it. They don't want it. So no, they're not going to stick around. They're not going to play. They're not going to play a game that just wastes their time. And that's all Star Citizen is doing, is wasting people's time. So, we've had all this ranting. What is Star Citizen then? What is it right now? Well, I would say that it's a tech test. It's a tech test with big dreams that is in a very perilous state of design where it can go with one change. It can either go in the right direction or very far off in the wrong direction. And I think that Star Citizen only has a chance now because there are talented people. There's a lot of talented people that work there. So if by some chance you are from SIG and you're still listening to this video, which you probably aren't, I do appreciate what it is that CIG does. But they also have to appreciate why their game is being played less now and what people are complaining about, as well as cipher through the garbage that people are complaining about, because they complain about garbage. Like, look at the warp gates. Like, oh god, there's no structures around the warp holes. Who the hell cares? Who cares if there's no structures around the warp holes? As long as it serves the mechanical purpose for gameplay, I don't care. I really don't care. So yeah, they gotta decipher through a lot of that crap. But to answer the question, it's a tech test that's got some gameplay elements to it. It doesn't have an economy, so it's not a real game. It's not an MMO. It has 100 player servers. Squad has 100 player servers. Hell Let Loose has 100 player servers. Arma has 100 player servers. It doesn't do anything different from those games. So without an economy attached to it, without a purpose, without factions or rep grinds or any MMO features that matter with player agency, character development, and player decisions, choice, and consequence, this is not a real game. And that's okay for now. It's okay. If you've been following this project for 12 years, I really do think that we are on the precipice of change here, where major things are going to happen. And I think 4.0 is going to be that major patch, because 3.23 is just another crappy version of 3.18, which was a bad version of 3.17 minus the flight model. And I think SIG knows that. I think they get it. And I think that this is just on maintenance mode. It's just fire some crap out, run some events, keep whatever is left somewhat engaged, gather data, and let's get all hands on deck until 4.0. Because what we have now, it's not a game. But 4.0 might be a game. And I could be eating my words here when that comes out. I don't know. But right now, if you play this game as anything other than a tech demo with a little bit of charm to it, you're living on a different planet. I wish I could be as easily amused and just blissfully ignorant as you are. In a way, I admire you. If you can play this constantly as your only game, and enjoy it. And I don't think a lot of people are like that. But if you are one of those people, well, God bless you. Really. You're amazing. But I think for a lot of us, quote-unquote normal folk, because I wouldn't even consider myself normal. My ego is not that big, right? But we want more. We need more. And you may tell us, yeah, man, it's an alpha. Well, it's been an alpha for 12 years. I want to play the best damn space game ever made. I want to play an MMO FPS. I want to play an MMO with choice and consequence and everything. I just want to play a good MMO. And I think that Star Citizen is going to be it. But it's just not it right now. But I think we're getting close. I'm always hopeful. You know that. But I criticize this game because I love it. The money I've invested into it means nothing to me. If anybody here knows me, you know I'm a straight shooter when it comes to that crap. You won't catch me playing something because of a sunk cost fallacy. If I don't like it, I don't play it. I don't give a crap how much money I put into it. Because I'm not going to let that interfere with what my opinions are or my observations are of the product. If anything, it's going to make me be far more realistic about the product. It's going to make me want to be more open and honest about how good or bad it is. Because if you really love Star Citizen, you're not just going to blindly follow it. You're going to provide real, genuine criticism to hopefully see it improve. And that's what I think I'm doing. And on the topic of improving and 4.0 being a big deal and this game being on maintenance mode right now, is meshing absolutely has to be big, and Star Citizen has to decide what it wants to be. Do you want to be an MMO? Well, if you want your game to be an MMO, then you have to make sacrifices on certain things, such as over-the-top fidelity. You have to make some sacrifices on menus, on the UI. Does anybody here like the UI in the game right now? Does anybody here care to use? Do they like use their Moby Glass and go, yeah, I love this. This is so cool. This is so immersive. I love it. This is so wow. Does anybody do that? Because I know I don't. I want to play a game that is tooled towards being an MMO experience. You can have both. You really can. But you have to think about it from a point of view of making a good MMO game and a good MMO user experience. And right now, that's not happening. So it's not happening on the UI front at all. But let's step away from the UI front. What about the numbers front? What about everything else? Well, again, meshing. Meshing is going to be what makes or breaks this game. It's not pyro. It's nothing else. It has to be meshing. Because there is nothing about Star Citizen that feels massive, especially on the aforementioned 100-player servers that are not tied together, that are not linked, that do not have economies, that do not have choices or consequences or anything else. There is nothing about this game that feels like an MMO. Is meshing truly the Jesus tech that's necessary to do that? Maybe. I don't know. I hope it is. They've made it sound like it is. Well, then it better be. This game has to nail that. It has to nail the MMO feel. Not just from the numbers and not just from meshing or the technology, but also from the UI and the player expectations. There has to be something for players to do. Because right now, this plays like a bad session shooter. And that's what I'm going to call it. It's a bad session shooter. And I think CIG realizes that too. I think that I don't think they're stupid over there. I really don't. I think that they're figuring it out, and they've had it figured out. And they understand the importance of 4.0 and meshing. And that's why we're probably seeing features being cut. And if you're one of those guys, because I mentioned a little bit about the stupid warp gates or the structures around the wormholes, if you're one of those idiots that's holding on to what was promised to you 12 years ago, move on. Reevaluate your life. All right? You have got to let it go. If things that are trivial and stupid and were said back then to extract money from your very gullible wallets to fund this project were said, and those promises cannot be kept 12 years later, too bad. That's your fault. That is your fault. I didn't back this game until, again, 2-3 years ago. I sat this one out for a very long time. I sat it out for over 10 years, I believe. So I definitely sat it out. Now, here we are playing it, and you're an original backer. And suddenly, all those things that were promised, they're not tenable. Whoops. Oh well. What are you going to do? You going to write your congressman? Are you going to call the Better Business Bureau? No, you're going to go why non-spectrum. It doesn't matter what you say. What matters is this game becomes a viable product. That's all that matters to SIG as well, is that it becomes a viable product. And do you think that most people who come to this game and play it, do you think that they care that you're not going to be able to use the bathroom and wipe yourself in your Drake cutter? All right? Do you think they're going to care that there's no arms around a wormhole? Do you think they're going to care that these stupid high-fidelity things are being cut and simplified for gameplay reasons? No, they're not. You might care. You're that aging geriatric boomer with what used to be disposable income that is rapidly approaching the end of your life, your twilight years. And all you care about is getting what was quote-unquote promised to you 12 plus years ago. So I think that pretty much sums up this unscripted rant about Star Citizen and its current patch. It's a bit of a post-mortem even, if you will, and some predictions of things to come. But I complain, and others complain, not because we hate this game and want it to fail. I'm definitely not in leagues with the absolute mayonnaise sandwich-eating morons over at Star Citizen's refunds. Those people should get a life and move on, I tell you what. But I definitely am one of those people that wants to see this game be the best it can be, and I do want to see it succeed. So when I start seeing some mind-blowingly stupid decisions and things that happen that don't make a whole lot of sense, I'm inclined to use what limited influence and power I have to at least speak out against it. Because I do want this game, again, to be good. It's not going to be good by sitting there and hiding behind the phrase, it's just an alpha. It's not going to be good by complaining about trivial nonsense like wormhole armatures and gates, or whether or not there's reflections in the mirror of your 890 jump. None of that stuff really matters. What matters is the core gameplay experience, the loops, and what the new player actually experiences. You know, the future of your game. And right now, Star Citizen is failing tremendously on those fronts. And that might change in 4.0. I think that has to change in 4.0. But I don't see that happening this year. I don't see how 4.0 is going to happen in any time soon. I'm thinking maybe if it does, it's not going to be the most stable thing. But we're used to that, right? But at this point, I would rather 4.0 come out next year and be good. And be actually good early next year than have it rushed out this year for the sake of, I don't know, for the sake of it. Because I'm willing to wait a couple more years for this game to be good. I've got a couple more years left in me. You know, it's been a while. Much to the chagrin of others, I have not reached that end-of-life twilight year stage yet. And I think people's hatred for me is what gives me the motivation to stay healthy and keep going on. So thank you. So thank you for listening, and now you got some insight into what keeps me going. I am driven purely by spite and malice. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Have a good one.